Hi traders, Nathan Bray here from ACY Securities. Well, the inflation data has come out for Australia, folks, where I'm from, here in Sydney, Australia. And all the interest rate rises that we've had don't mean anything because inflation's gone up again. Okay, year on year, we've gone from 3.4% up to 3.5%. Not heading down to that 2% target. So it looks like rate cuts, unfortunately, will be a ways off. And yet we've got an economy that is really starting to suffer. It's being dragged back by the fact that inflation is continuing to rise and we're not getting that interest rate cut. Okay, so this to me, even though we'll get an initial bounce on this Aussie, which we have, I'm looking at this weekly chart range, and yes, the longer term trend is still down, but we are now right up at this 68 level on the Aussie USD. So what I'm really wanting to see here, because yes, inflation is going up and we may not get an interest rate cut, okay, as the market is desperately, not just the market, but families in Australia who are suffering from the weight of rising interest rates with high household debt, okay? These people need a break. But unfortunately, because we've got so many people coming into the country at the moment, okay, spending money, then it's pushing our inflation up. On the flip side, which to me is on the drag down side, okay, you've got the construction work was supposed to come in around 0.8%, okay, for the month, okay, but instead, it's come in at 0.1%. So you've got construction work done falling off a cliff, okay? And remember, we've got inflation going up partly because we've got all these extra people arriving. Where are they going to live, okay? That's my point. So we're in a very, very tight scenario here in Australia. Now, the Australian bond rate, so I'm looking at the current interest rate, okay, as a guide. So in Australia, it's about 4.35%, okay? Now I look at the 2-year yield, so just 2 years ahead, it's pricing at around 4.25%. So in the next 2 years, the market isn't factoring in a very big cut at all, whereas we're seeing something completely different on the US. Their 2-year yield, they're looking at about 1.5% lower, okay, or 150 basis points lower over the next 2 years from where the interest rate is now. So are we stuck, folks, with this Aussie perched up here with higher interest rates for longer? So my question is technically, are we going to close above this 68 level, considering that inflation is still sticking around and that old adage that inflation should be positive, okay? Higher inflation should be positive for a currency. So I'm watching this weekly 68% level to see if we can get a close above there, because if we get a failure at this level, I think we're going to stay back inside this range, despite the fact that there may not be any cuts coming in the near future. But remember, we were one of the first countries to put our interest rates on pause. So it could very well be that this inflation is a result of the fact that we didn't tackle this inflation problem with our interest rate tool fast enough. Now, the other thing I'm looking at really is the US dollar index. So a lot of media right now is speculating about the weakness of this US dollar. So I'm looking at the index a bit like this Aussie dollar, and I'm saying it's right down the bottom of its weekly range, right around this sort of 106 level, or sorry, 164 level. So this 164 level is the one I'm watching. Right now, I want to see it actually close below there to sort of give us an indication that we are breaking into a lower range on this US dollar. I'm not convinced yet. We could just trade back inside the range. There was consumer confidence positive news coming out of the US last night. So therefore, if we are going to bounce back into the range and this US dollar might be seen as very cheap at this price like it has been historically, then are we going to see the Aussie break through that, okay, and go higher? So top and bottom, these are the two levels I'm watching at the moment, folks. Keep your eyes peeled, and there could be some great trading opportunities if we get a failure and a hold at the bottom of the range on this US dollar. That's all from me, folks. Let's try and get inflation under control for everyone's sake.